Hey everyone, I'm here with a favorite films of the year video alongside a festively adorned Betty Davis because I mention every now and then that in addition to reading as much as I can, I enjoy seeing lots and lots of different films that are new and come out in the cinemas and enjoy discussing them. So I thought I'd make a different sort of video talking about that today and just mentioning really briefly some of my favorite films. And actually, one of my favorite films of all time is the movie Clue, which is so ridiculous and funny and endlessly quotable. And so I'm wearing my Clue T-shirt here to make this video. And if you love the movie Clue as well, then you know, we're instantly friends. So so I'll jump into talking about some of my favorite films, starting from the beginning of the year, which I think first couple of films might have been released in the US in 2017, but only just came out in the UK in 2018. So the first film I'll talk about is Good Time, starring Robert Pattinson. And I'm not a Robert Pattinson fan at all. I mean, I'm not against him, but I just, you know, I'm not like one of those crazy fans that absolutely love him. And sorry, they're not crazy. I'm sure they're very sensible. But this film is very different and so wild and just such a big, like, it's basically about a bank robbery that goes really wrong. Robert Pattinson, he tries to rob this bank with his mentally disabled brother, and the whole fallout from that, this like crazy madcap journey that they go on over the course of a night, which goes in so many different directions, really unexpected directions, and is endlessly thrilling and really interesting and stylish in how it does it. So I love that film. Then there's I, Tonya, which is incredible. And I have personal memories of the incidents from this film in 1994 when Tonya Harding was connected with the attack on Nancy Kerrigan, and the way that this film goes about telling that story in such a creative way, showing that there's these different sides and perspectives to it, none of which are strictly true, is so good. Margot Robbie is incredible in it, and Allison Janney is amazing. Her character is so twisted and horrible, and just what she does with her is, yeah, incredible. Then there's Black Panther, another big sort of blockbuster type movie. These are all quite like mainstream movies I'm talking about at first, but yeah, Black Panther was a box office phenomenon, and rightly so. It's you know, and I've sort of, some people I know are quite like dismissive of it, just saying, well, it's just another Marvel superhero movie, and you know, and it is that, but it also says, I think, really interesting things about the complexities of politics and whether nations want to be sort of isolationist or connected to each other in the world, and it handles those subjects quite intelligently, I think, and gives a really different perspective while telling this amazing kick-ass story that's so gripping and wonderful to watch. And so yeah, I thought that was an incredible film. And then the next film, which is not a big blockbuster, and I don't know if it's even been on general release in the cinema. I saw it at the Gay and Lesbian Film Festival in London earlier this year, and that is called Rift, or in its native Icelandic language, I think it's called Rokkur. And this film is such a tense thriller, sort of, it crosses genres. It's sort of romantic thriller, but also a horror film, and it takes place in this isolated cabin in Iceland, and basically there's these two men who have broken up with each other, had a bad breakup, and one of them is at this cabin and he calls the other one and says, please come out, and he struggles with different addiction and mental health problems, and so he tries to go help him, but then there's this whole tension of what's going on in the background. There's this creepy figure who may or may not be stalking them, and it's very tense and very atmospheric, but also very emotional in the way that it looks at this relationship of this breakup and the aftermath of this breakup. So yeah, that's an incredible film. I would really recommend seeking it out if you can, if it is available on any streaming services or to buy from anywhere. It's yeah, it's great. Then there's The Wound, which is another not a big blockbuster, but I know it is on Netflix, at least in the UK. And that's a South African drama that is an initiation story about a group of young men that are taken out into the wilderness to perform this traditional ceremony, which is a circumcision ceremony. I have trouble saying that word. Understandably, I have trouble saying that word because it's a scary word. So these teenage boys who have to go through this, and one boy in particular who is called Kawanda, who is mentored by this adult man called Zolani. And Kawanda feels very secure in himself and who he is, but Zolani does not and has hidden homosexuality, and it's about the tension of their relationship and the drama of the tension of being in this group of men who are performing this hyper-masculine ceremony. So it sort of questions the idea of masculinity and what makes a man, and I found it so moving and compelling, and it's beautifully told and done, and so would really recommend it. Then there is Beast, which is a kind of warped fairy tale about an outcast young woman who enters into a very uncommon romance with this outcast man who's sort of from a different class, and so it's about issues of class and a family drama, but is told in a really creative and unique way. It's this sort of twisted fairy tale, and I just loved the whole atmosphere of it, and thought it was really well done. There's Jeune, Femme, which is also known, I think in France it was called Montparnasse, Bienvenue. And this is about a young woman after a breakup, and she's named Paula, and she moves back to Paris after having not lived there for a while, and tries to rebuild her life, and just trying out lots of different things. And I love how it describes the way of sort of stumbling towards adulthood and finding a different sense of self after a breakup, because some breakups, they can be devastating and feels like it totally obliterates your sense of self, and she reacts in a very extreme way to this breakup, and it's just her gradually finding herself and building her life again, and it was done in just a really beautiful way. So I really appreciated that. Then there's the documentary called McQueen about Alexander McQueen, and I'm not somebody who's like massively into fashion, but this documentary really made me appreciate it as an art form, because what he created were works of art, and there's amazing outfits in it, but his story is so emotional and compelling, and just his struggles with mental health, and just the great tragedy that he died at such a young age after committing suicide. It follows his journey and what sort of led him to that, and it's so beautifully told, and I loved that film. And it's torturous because just down the street from my office there's just recently opened the label of Alexander McQueen, have an office there, and they had this showcase window which you could see some of the outfits through the window from, and it was amazing walking past and seeing that. But then they put up curtains to hide all of it, and it's just torturous. It's like, oh, I want to go in and see, but obviously I'm not allowed because it's very exclusive. So then the next film is Leave No Trace, which is this incredible drama. It's about a father and daughter and their relationship, living in this very isolated way in the woods. And the father suffers from mental health issues and from trauma, of post-trauma from fighting in the armed forces, and his extreme reaction to that, and wanting to just live this as isolated and self-sufficient a life as possible. Whereas, and the troubles that they encounter because of that, especially because the daughter is growing older and wanting to integrate into society, whereas he doesn't want to allow that. But it's done in such a heartfelt and moving way. Like, he's not a villain. You can sympathize and understand his pain, but also not condone what he's doing and the way that he's raising his daughter, and raises all these questions about who has the right to say where we should intervene and where we shouldn't intervene in parenting, which I think is really interesting. Then there's the film Love, Simon, which is just amazing, wonderful, delightful, joyous film, a typical sort of teenage romance film, but done with a gay twist and told from a gay perspective, that I found so sympathetic and wonderful and heartwarming. Just my heart was brimming over, and I wish this film had come out when I was a teenager. I would have loved it. So I just love the knowledge that so many teenagers are watching this and having this connection and can feel this, you know, and you can pick holes in it. You can say it's from a very sort of privileged white middle class experience, but yeah, I thought it was it's done so well that that even with all those things, it's you know, it's still compelling and felt like a really necessary sort of story to tell. Then there is The Heiresses, which is a Paraguayan film, which is so unique and interesting, telling another side of sort of gay love story of from two much older women, two aging women, who have been longtime lovers, longtime partners, and their experience, their wealth has been deteriorating and slowly leaving, and they have to find other ways to make a living, and the problems they encounter and the difficult decisions they have to make, trying to figure out where they want to go forward in their lives. And I thought it was such a beautifully told story and so unique and so great to get a you know, a gay love story that's from later years in life, because we don't get that many same-sex stories about long-term partnerships. So that is such a great film. Then there's the film Cold War, which is beautifully shot. It is such a beautiful looking film and so empathically told. It traces a romance over many years, and through the war, through the Second World War and skirmishes that go on in the war, and how these two individuals sort of grow and change and evolve over time. I think apparently the director made it's heavily based on his parents' experience, and following their journey as they, I think it gives another very different perspective on relationships, of how people have to grow as individuals while growing together as a couple, and that's a very tricky thing, and which is a big stumbling block for a lot of couples. And obviously this particular couple go through a lot of very difficult challenges going through the war, and encountering all the challenges that obviously creates. So that's a great film. And another very beautifully shot film is Roma, Alfonso Cuarón's new amazingly beautifully shot drama. And this is another film that, although I think it's on Netflix and streaming services, would hugely recommend seeing it in the cinema if you can, because it's such a beautiful cinematic feast. I mean, that's a cliched thing to say, but it is just so lovely to watch, and is a really touching, moving story about this housekeeper and who minds the children of this middle class household in Mexico City a few decades ago, and the political changes that are happening in the city in the time, the protests that are happening, and how the changes in this family that are happening, which force the family to alter their situation. Then there's the film In Fabric, this film by Peter Strickland, which is so wild and crazy and amazing. It's difficult to sum up what it is and what it's about. It's basically about a haunted dress, which this woman purchases, well, actually multiple women purchase, and their experiences after dressing in this haunted dress, and about the surreal, weird department store, and the whole thing is just told in such a surreal, creative, crazy way that I loved this film. It was so amazing, and similarly, there's another film which is also much more a horror film called Mandy, which is a Nicolas Cage film, which, I mean, Nicolas Cage is, I think, just sort of embraced his own ridiculousness, but and this film is ridiculous in it's this sort of adventure story of this revenge story where this cult descends upon Nicolas Cage and his wife, and attacks his wife, and his going out to get revenge for that. And the way it's told is so clever, and I think even though it is this ridiculous story with lots of graphic, horrible violence. But interestingly, none of that violence, there is violence inflicted upon women in this film, but barely any of it is actually shown on screen. A lot of it is like implied, which I think is really important because, you know, there's the difficulty with, especially in the genre of horror, of portraying violence against women. And is it criticizing those actions, or is it sort of reveling in them by portraying them and showing it in this sort of gratuitous way? And so I think it's really clever how this film doesn't do that, consciously doesn't do that. Yeah, and also you could interpret this film as sort of a dramatization of the struggles happening in America, this conflict between this very fundamental sensibility and a much more sort of like liberal, open sensibility, and so yeah, I think you can interpret it in a lot of different ways while being just like a crazy action film. So that is incredible. And then finally, I want to mention the film Shoplifters, which is this Japanese drama about this improvised family who, some of them are shoplifters, and that's how they, you know, they exist on this sort of lower class level, and to survive they need to shoplift and get food, and so yeah, they sort of are this group of con artists that live together, and again, it's another film that asks questions about the meaning of family and what family means, and what are the right ways to raise children, and where is it right to intrude? When is it right for the government to intrude upon how those children are being raised? And yeah, it's just such a touching drama that yeah, I hugely enjoyed and appreciated. So those are some of my favorite films of the year, but I would really like to know from you, what are some of the best films that you've watched this year? What would you recommend? What should I watch over the Christmas season? I have some more time off from work, so I really just want to hunker down and, you know, and eat some sweet stuff and watch some good films. So let me know what I should be watching. And also, I recently joined LetterBoxd when I was mentioning that I made watch a lot of films, that somebody prompted me to join LetterBoxd, the app LetterBoxd, where you can record and rate the films that you watch. And so I have joined that. So please, if you want to connect with me on there and find me there, we can yeah, connect there, because I don't know that many people and still figuring out how it works. But I like being able to record all the films I watch, because of course I watch a lot of films on streaming as well, but I mainly just record down, physically write down the films that I see in cinemas, and so this gives me a chance to record everything I watch, and so yeah, I'd really like to know what you're watching, and be able to connect with you and see what you think about films as well. So thank you for watching, and well, usually I say happy reading, but happy viewing if you are going to be watching films this festive season, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye.